My name's Tom.
Well, I put a man away for a long time last year.
Trying to remember what that feels like to be in love.
Broadchurch came out in 2013 and sucked up all the oxygen. Everyone watched it, everyone talked about it. The Guilty came out the same year and barely anyone noticed, which is a shame because Tamsin Greig is fantastic in it. You know Greig from comedies like Black Books, Green Wing, Friday Night Dinner. This was one of her first dramatic leads, and she's easily the best thing about the show. A 4-year-old boy disappears at a neighborhood barbecue in 2008. Greig's detective catches the case but has to step away because of a rough pregnancy. 5 years later, the boy's body turns up buried yards from his family's front door, and she comes back to figure out what happened. The show plays across 2 timelines, 2008 and 2013, and it's really about the secrets of everyone who lived on that street. The boy's parents, the neighbors, the detective herself, who's dealing with her own son's undiagnosed autism. Fair warning, though, if you're paying attention, you'll probably figure out the mystery early, and the red herrings are a bit obvious. But the show is still entertaining enough, and Greig deserved more credit than she got. The BBC rejected this show. Channel 4 called it silly and passed. Nobody wanted it. Then BBC One picked it up, and it became one of the biggest shows in Britain. One of the characters, Gene Hunt, turned into a national icon. People still quote him. The networks that passed must have felt pretty stupid about that. The setup is genuinely brilliant. A police detective gets hit by a car in 2006, wakes up in 1973, and has no idea if he's gone insane, if he's in a coma, or if he's actually traveled back in time. He keeps getting messages through television sets and radios and telephones, voices from 2006 suggesting he's lying in a hospital bed somewhere. So he's stuck in the 1970s, one rank lower than he was, working under this guy named Gene Hunt. And Gene Hunt is everything modern policing has tried to eliminate. He's a swaggering, bigoted, gut instinct brawler who solves crimes by punching people and trusting his gut. Our guy Sam Tyler tries to use modern forensic techniques. Hunt just wants to kick down doors. The show ran for 2 series, 16 episodes, and the ending is genuinely great. Ambiguous, thoughtful, the kind of finale you think about for days. Adrian Dunbar was on Line of Duty for years playing Ted Hastings. Serious role, intense show. When he moved on to Ridley, he had one request for the producers. He wanted his character to run a jazz club so he could sing on camera. This wasn't some random whim. Dunbar had been playing music since he was a kid. He had a country band in Ireland during his 40s. At one point in his life, he was an Elvis impersonator. The show itself is about a retired detective who had a breakdown after his wife and daughter died in a fire. His former protege brings him back as a civilian consultant, which is based on an actual practice in UK policing. The mysteries are traditional British crime stuff, nothing groundbreaking, but the singing is polarizing as hell. Some people love it, some people can't stand it. 2 series so far and worth watching just to find out which camp you fall into. A London detective transfers to a tiny coastal town in Wales after his daughter drowns. His marriage doesn't survive it. He moves into a caravan on a mountainside because he's basically given up on having a normal life. The cases are standalone murders, but what makes Hinterland special is how it looks. Gray skies, empty beaches, these forgotten little towns where everyone's hiding something. Critics called it Celtic noir because it feels like those Scandinavian crime dramas that were everywhere for a while. Slow, atmospheric, more interested in mood than action. Some of the dialogue is in Welsh. The show still managed to sell to over 30 countries. Netflix picked it up for North America. 3 series, feature-length episodes, and some of the most beautiful, miserable television you'll ever watch. Every British crime show has the same guy. Tortured genius, drinks too much, can't hold down a relationship, solves impossible cases while brooding in the rain. The Last Detective has none of that. Peter Davison plays a detective nicknamed Dangerous because his boss thinks he's completely useless. He's called the last detective because he's the last one anyone would ever assign to a real case. He gets the garbage like stolen mail or missing garden gnomes, the cases that don't matter. But then those cases keep unraveling into something bigger. And he solves them anyway. Not because he's brilliant, because he's patient, he doesn't quit. Because he's genuinely decent, and people actually trust him enough to tell him things. His character is going through a divorce, shares custody of a giant dog, and lives in a guest house. His best friend is an unemployed Irish guy, and he's hilarious. 4 series, 17 episodes, each one running 70 to 90 minutes, based on a series of novels. And if you're a Doctor Who fan, keep your eyes open. Peter Davison was the 5th Doctor, and a handful of other Who actors pop up throughout the show. Stephen King said Peter Robinson's Inspector Banks novels were the best crime series on the market. That's not a small thing to say. The TV adaptation ran for 5 series and pulled in 5 to 6 million viewers pretty consistently, so clearly people agreed. Alan Banks is one of those detectives who lives alone, takes cases too personally, and can't separate his work from his life. He's out on the Yorkshire moors, drinks wine, loves music. His partner, Annie Cabot, is someone he's clearly got a thing for, but they spend the whole series dancing around it. The Yorkshire location work is beautiful, really moody and atmospheric. The cases range from serial killings to cold cases to murders wrapped up in family secrets. It's solid, well-made television. One thing worth knowing. An actress named Sophie Skelton had a role in this show, and after it ended, she went on to play Brianna Fraser in Outlander. So if you're into Outlander, you can see where she came from. The one downside is the ending. The show knew it was getting canceled, and they still didn't stick the landing. But everything before that is worth watching. Elizabeth Bancroft is a decorated, respected, feared senior police officer. She's also a murderer. 27 years ago, when she was a young constable, she stabbed the pregnant wife of her lover. Then she was the first cop to show up when the crime got reported. She's been hiding it ever since, built a whole career on top of it. Series 1, her younger colleague gets assigned to reopen that exact murder as a cold case. The investigation starts pointing toward Bancroft without anyone realizing she's what they're looking for. Meanwhile, Bancroft is also trying to take down a major crime boss. So she's living 2 lives, and both of them are starting to fall apart. People had strong reactions to this show. Some said it was ridiculous and pointed out it was basically doing the same thing Line of Duty did in Series 4. Senior female detective covering up a murder, destroying evidence, all that. Others compared it to Luther and loved how bold it was to make your main character someone with no redeeming qualities at all. Most crime dramas follow the detective running the investigation. The Babe puts you with the family liaison officer instead. That's the person who sits with the victim's family and holds their hands during press conferences. And at the same time, that officer is gathering intelligence on those same people, because sometimes the family did it. Lisa Armstrong is a single mother who works as a detective. First series, her case is 2 teenagers who've gone missing. Should be manageable, except the night before, Lisa hooked up with some married guy behind a pub. One night stand, caught on CCTV. That guy turns out to be the twins' stepfather. So now she's the family liaison for a family where she slept with the father 12 hours ago. She deletes the footage rather than tell anyone, and that one decision just poisons everything. First series got 7 million viewers. People called it the Northern Broadchurch. Series 2 follows Lisa after she's been demoted, trying to work her way back. After Series 2, the actress Morven Christie left. Never said why publicly. They brought in someone new for Series 3, and a lot of viewers bounced. The feeling was that Christie was what made it work. So watch the first 2 series, they're great. After that, your call. Caroline Quinton was a comedy actress. Men Behaving Badly, Jonathan Creek, that whole world. And ITV looked at her and said, you know what? We're going to build an entire crime drama around this woman. Let's see if she can do something completely different. So they built the show around Janine Lewis, a Manchester detective, and the first episode just destroys her life. She's just been promoted same day she walks in on her husband in bed with the au pair. And she's pregnant. So now she's got her first murder case as a newly promoted detective. She's expecting a baby, her marriage just exploded, and she's got 4 kids who still need looking after. The show ran for 5 series and her life never calms down. Her ex moves to Spain with a new family. She's got this thing with her partner that neither of them will act on. There's always some childcare crisis in the background, and she's still got murders to solve. And the cases are good. They're more interested in why someone got killed than just figuring out who did it. ITV canceled it in 2009, and honestly, it felt like the show was just hitting its stride. But 5 series is still a lot to watch, and Quentin really does sell the whole thing. Olivia Williams plays Charlie, a detective who's just transferred from London to a small provincial unit. First night, there's welcome drinks with her new colleagues. She gets drunk, and she may or may not have snogged her new partner, Simon Waterhouse. They wake up the next morning as people who have to work together and can't look each other in the eye, and immediately they catch a case. Williams has been in everything: The Sixth Sense, Dollhouse, The Crown. She said she took this role because the character was professionally sharp, but privately a mess, and that's exactly what she plays. Darren Boyd is great as Waterhouse. The two of them have this chemistry that makes every scene between them interesting. The first case is a mother and daughter found dead in a bathtub. Looks like murder-suicide. The husband has an alibi that seems airtight. Waterhouse doesn't believe it and starts going off on his own theories while Charlie wants to follow procedure. It's a psychological puzzle, not a chase-the-killer thing. Series 1 is better than Series 2. The sequel feels compressed. But honestly, 4 episodes of television this smart is worth a few hours of your time. This is a 7-part series about the Yorkshire Ripper case. Peter Sutcliffe, the serial killer, 5 years of murders in the late 70s, one of the biggest manhunts in British history. And the show made a very deliberate decision to barely show the killer at all. The director, Lewis Arnold, said this was his condition for taking the job. If the violence was going to be part of the show, he wasn't interested. So instead of centering on Sutcliffe, the series focuses on the victims and their families and the absolutely disastrous police investigation. Because here's what happened. A hoaxer sent in a fake confession tape, called himself Wareside Jack, and the lead detective became so convinced it was real that he spent years chasing this guy while Sutcliffe kept killing people. The whole investigation went completely off the rails because of a prank caller. Toby Jones plays the first detective on the case. David Morrissey plays the one who takes over and gets obsessed with the hoax tape. The cast is basically a who's who of British acting talent, and the period detail is incredible. One critic called it the best ITV drama in years, and the show actually gets better as it goes along, which is rare. This one's got Robbie Coltrane, and it uses a Rashomon-style structure, which is honestly the best thing about it. A 13-year-old girl named Carrie comes home from a party and finds her mother murdered. She sees a shadow on the wall. A man with blood on his hand calls the police. Coltrane plays the detective who investigates, and the case goes cold. 15 years later, Carrie's about to get married, and she goes back to the now-retired detective to try to finally figure out who killed her mother. The first episode shows everything through Carrie's eyes as a kid. Second episode shows the same events through the detective's perspective. Third episode brings it to the present and reveals the killer. Coltrane is superb in it, that's not a surprise, but the ending is divisive. Some people called it a gripping whodunit with plenty of twists. Others said the final 20 minutes were absurd. Solution just came out of nowhere. The Amazon version combines all 3 episodes into a single 2-hour film, which probably makes the pacing problems worse. I'd say check it out for yourself, even just for Coltrane's performance, but go in knowing the ending might frustrate you. River is a 6-episode series with Stellan Skarsgård as a London detective, and the premise sounds kind of ridiculous when you describe it. His partner gets murdered in the first episode, and then she keeps appearing to him as a ghost. like she's just there talking to him and helping him investigate her own death. And I know that sounds cheesy, like some CBS procedural gimmick, but it's actually beautiful. The writer is Abby Morgan, who did The Hour and the Iron Lady, and she took the idea from that 90s film, Truly Madly Deeply, where a dead boyfriend comes back, but Morgan made it work as a detective show somehow. What makes it interesting is that as River investigates the murder, he finds out his partner had secrets. She was running a whole hidden investigation without telling him, so he's grieving this person while also realizing he didn't really know her. The show has a perfect 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, which almost never happens, and it's only 6 episodes, and that's it. No second series. Everyone who watched it had the same reaction. They wanted more, but the story felt complete. That's honestly the best thing you can say about a show, that it knew exactly when to end. Clive Owen plays a workaholic detective who finds out he has a rare degenerative eye disease. It's a real condition called acute zonal occult outer retinopathy, and it might cause total blindness, and he's absolutely terrified of anyone at work finding out. What I like about this one is that when his new partner figures out his secret, they make a deal. She'll cover for him, be his eyes basically, if he gives her equal credit on cases and helps her career. And as his vision gets worse, he has to stop relying on what he can see and start developing his other senses. Hearing inconsistencies in how suspects talk, noticing textures and smells. Owen's performance is great, which you'd expect, and the blindness storyline is really well handled. It's touching without being manipulative about it. The actual murder plots are a bit weaker with some silly plot holes, but the central story about his deteriorating sight carries the whole thing. I'm honestly surprised Clive Owen never became a bigger star than he did. He's fantastic in this. David Morrissey plays Detective Tom Thorne, a London detective haunted by a past case. In the TV version, which is darker than the source novels, Thorne actually killed a serial killer and covered it up with help from his pathologist friend, played by Aidan Gillen. The show debuted against Downton Abbey, Single Father, and a rerun of The Da Vinci Code all at once, so it basically had no chance. But Morrissey and Gillen are great as usual, and the 2 stories they made were solid, if not spectacular. The romantic subplot feels forced, but overall it's an enjoyable watch. Here's the sad part. There were supposed to be more. The source material is 10 novels, and a second series had actually gone into production. But then Morrissey got cast as the governor in The Walking Dead, and that was it. The author said in 2012 that all plans were suspended. No further series has been made since. So The Walking Dead killed this show before it could really get going.